Well, that was Trump reacting to the Supreme Court ruling that made his tariffs illegal. He's clearly unhappy by the setback and he's asserted that he has other alternatives. Trump has also said that he's absolutely ashamed of the Supreme Court ruling. Trump also says that Supreme Court's ruling is crazy. He used tariffs to end 5 out of 8 wars. He's also said that tariffs will continue, no doubt, and he can do anything but can't impose tariffs. That's what he has said after the Supreme Court major setback by the US Supreme Court that made all the tariffs by Trump illegal. Now for more on that, we have Geeta Mohan joining us live. Geeta, we are seeing that, Trump is not ready to back down. He sees this as a setback, but he says that there are other alternatives. In fact, he's mentioned 10% global tariffs, which are to come into order as well.
Well, that's right. The biggest news from this, Jessica, is the fact that President Trump has said he's just going to sign an order that would impose additional 10% global tariffs, which means that after all the negotiations and the deal that was struck between India and the United States of America, bringing down tariffs from 50% to 18%, is going to go up by 10%, and then the tariffs will stand at 28%. This even as the two countries have a trade deal. Again, we'll have to get some clarity on how that works out for us. But another very important claim, Jessica, is made on the India question right now, if I may stick to that for now, is that President Trump has said that Prime Minister Modi is great, but they were ripping, which is India, was ripping America of revenue, and what they did was they struck a deal, and that deal has led to America not paying tariffs and India paying tariffs. Now, we do not have the fine print of the deal that has been struck between India and the United States of America, but if this is the fine print, if these are the details, and if this is what Trump believes is happening with the deal, then there is much explanation, much clarity that we require on what that deal really means. Having said that, a 10% additional global tariff is the big news. The fact that he's doubling down rather than accepting or conceding defeat and saying, well, yes, the court has ruled, let me look at other options. Tariffs might not be the way. He's now saying that there are other ways, and which the court also had said that he can exhaust other means, but IEEPA on emergency grounds of national security is not the way to do it. But he's mentioned Section 122, which also basically talks about how there can be imposition of additional tariffs from between 15%, if I'm not wrong, to about tariffs of up to 15% for 150 days to address large and persistent balance of payment deficits and to defend the value of the dollar. So, in all probability, he's looking at that 150-day window, imposing Section 122. He also says that the other sections, that Section 232 and 301, when it comes to tariffs, remain in place. So we do not know how he's going to navigate this entire space, but yes, he's saying that the tariffs will stay because this was a simpler way of doing it. It might have been easier, simpler, and that's why the matter went to court. He is going to choose a more complicated way, look at sections within the laws of the land to ensure that the tariffs continue, Jessica. And that's the big story over here, that President Trump's message to his country and to the world is that the tariffs are not going to go away. In fact, what he's done is the order that he's going to sign of an additional 10% will be hurting many who through very hard negotiations had brought the tariffs down. For India, it was from 50 to 18. We'll have to wait and see how this new imposition really works, and whether if it is going to be imposed on India as well. For now, it does seem like that because it's a global tariff for every country. But then there is going to be a G2G, which is what many people were asking Jessica earlier, whether if there is going to be a relief that New Delhi will also be looking at through the court ruling. And I had said then, and I'm saying it now, that in New Delhi is not looking at relief through any court ruling in America because that's not how you work with or engage Trump. Should there have been any reaction or any sort of or celebration with the tariffs being considered invalid, then Trump would have doubled down on the country. So for India, it is very important to remain engaged with Trump. It is very important to ensure that there is a bilateral agreement between the two countries that stays beyond any court ruling. Over here, we'll have to understand whether if this trade agreement stays beyond the court ruling or whether the 10% will apply. For now, it's a global imposition. So we're considering India being part of that as well. But again, you know, some clarity will come a little later. This is big news that's coming in. A setback back home through the courts for Trump, but Trump has doubled down. He says tariffs are not going to go away.
Right, absolutely. Well, you know, when he's mentioned India quite a few times, he's also spoken about Prime Minister Modi and how he's a good man. And we also hear him, you know, reiterating the mention of how he used tariffs to stop the war and bring peace. He mentioned that he, with the help of tariffs, he stopped 5 out of 8 wars. Now, it's a big statement, and he's again mentioned India and Pakistan war. How do you think India is going to react to it, and how is India going to be affected by this?
Well, for one, the first reaction that we seek from the Ministry of External Affairs and the Prime Minister's office is whether if the 10% additional global tariff is going to be imposed on India as well. Secondly, his claim that tariffs, that they're not going to pay any tariffs to India, while India will pay tariffs to the United States of America, whether that stands. And most importantly, the fact that he's claimed yet again that he used tariffs as a mechanism and a tool to arm twist countries to stop fighting and solved 5 out of 8 wars. And he very specifically mentioned the India-Pakistan war is something that India has stopped reacting to, because the any reaction in response, which India stated time and again, that there was no mediation, or the fact that America did not have a hand or a role to play when it comes to India's decisions. That certainly has quite a reactionary effect in Washington, D.C. So I suppose that is something they'd stay away from, but they will have to respond to the first two, which is the 10% additional, and whether if America is not going to pay any tariffs and India will have to pay tariffs. That's a very significant statement coming from the President of the United States of America.
Absolutely. And you know, he's also mentioned that he's going to use some strong alternatives, and that even though the Supreme Court judgment has come in at the time, he is going to, you know, still push for the tariffs, and he's going to use other means. You mentioned Article 122, and also how, you know, he mentioned that he's going to bypass IEEPA and still continue with the tariffs. How is that really going to play out?
Well, for one, the fact that there were companies who were suffering and had gone to court. Then there were states that came together and went to court. The lower courts ruled to take the matter up to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court has given its ruling and has now opined that the IEEPA is invalid and not in the realm of constitutionality when it comes to imposition of these tariffs against countries for the interest of a particular administration, because there has to be an immediate national security threat for these tariffs to be imposed in the manner in which they've been used, and the premise being the IEEPA. So that has been considered invalid, but there were other alternatives that the court said that the administration can look at. That would not be invalid, and that's what President Trump is doing. There is another very big question that now comes. Because the court has ruled that IEEPA is invalid, there were a lot of companies that had to pay through their nose to keep their companies afloat and to keep the goods coming. And who now will be refunding them? That refund, because it is invalid, because this act does not apply, the tariffs have now been ruled and as invalid. So the money that was paid in this period when tariffs were being imposed, who will refund and how will that refund happen? So the next batch of legal suits and cases that you'd be seeing are of companies going to courts seeking refund, because there's no clarity on that. And President Trump actually responded to that, to a question saying that, well, the courts did not opine. They did not say that if they consider this invalid, then how are the refunds really going to happen? Because he clearly believes that he has earned a lot of revenue for the country. So that's another thing. And then what happens now is, because he's doubling down and he's not just imposing or will continue to impose tariffs, he's now going to sign an order with additional global tariffs of 10%. There will be many companies who again will be going to court. So this is going to be a tedious process running through courts after courts, at least for some time now.
You know, speaking about the courts, there are some strong allegations, some strong words that Trump has used for the Supreme Court itself. He's called that it was a disgraceful judgment. He's made comments about the judges. And how is the back and forth between the Supreme Court and the US president going to be like in the future that we're going to see play out?
Well, very clearly he's called it a political court. He said it's not fair. It has not been fair. He used very strong terms like abhorrent. He said he called the courts a disgrace. He named and shamed some of the judges. It's a 6-3 verdict. So yes, the Democrats have ruled, and the ones who were elected before his time and during the Biden administration have certainly ruled or opined against. So he really has taken the judiciary on, not just with regards to the fact that he's going to double down on tariffs, but certainly and clearly talking about the judiciary itself, saying it's biased, saying it's politically motivated, and more importantly, he's talked about foreign hand, that there are foreign interests involved, meaning countries that have been facing a lot of tough time from the Trump administration. He now is alluding that they are colluding with some of these judges or the Democratic Party to ensure that he and his moves are contained. So he's spoken of foreign interference. He's doubling down on tariffs. He says they're not going anywhere. There is additional tariffs that are going to be imposed. He again has claimed that these tariffs helped stop wars. And he has finally also spoken about India, not just about India-Pakistan war, but about India, the Indian premier, and the fact that there is going to be no tariff that America will be paying to India. So a lot of clarity that we'll be seeking tomorrow morning.
Absolutely. You know, when it's Trump and its economy, he's always kept the global economy on its toes. And now, you know, with these new statements and with this new judgment, we're going to see so much more of that playing out. How do you think various countries are going to react to it? And how are they going to negotiate this? And how is this going to affect the global economy in all?
Well, a very important and significant question in terms of how countries are looking at it. I think that there might be, and like President Trump said, that there would be some joyous moments that you'd see in some capitals because of this overturn or this ruling against against Trump tariffs. But to me, if you ask me, and I've been saying this even earlier, that countries are not looking at the Supreme Court ruling as a win. This is a setback to President Trump domestically. How does it impact businesses within America? What are businesses going to do about refund within America? How is the Republican Party going to look at it? How are the Democrats really responding to it? You're seeing a lot of reaction coming from Democratic senators and congressmen, meaning lawmakers there. But in terms of countries outside, they're not looking at whether if a court has ruled or not. They're only focused on what Trump does next. So depending on what Trump does, depending on what his decisions are going to be, is how a country is going to run its, how America is going to run its policies vis-a-vis any country. It's not the court. And these countries then cannot go seeking redressal or some relief from the Supreme Court of the United States of America. So they have to really be very focused on the administration, and that's what every country is going to do. They're going to look at G to G, what Trump is doing, and engage Trump to ensure that there is relief.